Podcast. There might be too many of them, okay? Maybe I'm gonna sound like a boomer or something, but we might have too many podcasts. Maybe there's too many podcasters out there. I come from the day and age where when I was around 11 years old, there was a real conversation being started of how many YouTubers can there be at one time? Yes, a lot of you guys maybe are not even old enough to remember this. There was a day, okay, during the rise of Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, during the golden age of YouTube, in the initial start of it, before Mr. Beast was the biggest guy, before the beef between PewDiePie and T-Series, we were actually having a discussion of what the carrying capacity of YouTube, the platform, was. People actually thought that there wasn't enough money to go around, okay? And I'm sorry to rip off the Band-Aid. It's looking like there's going to be an infinite number of YouTubers. There's more advertising money in YouTube right now than has ever been in cable. Okay? Like, think about that, how crazy that is. So there's going to be an infinite number of YouTubers. But we're not talking about YouTubers. We're talking about podcasters, okay? During the past 3 years, the number of podcasts have blown up from 1,200 recognized podcasts to over 50,000. I'm gonna sound like a boomer in this video. There's a lot of podcasts that I just don't listen to. There's only really 5 that I listen to on a day-to-day basis, and you'll understand that, okay? And in this video, I'm going to be ranking them in a tier list from S tier, being whenever they come out with an episode, I watch it or I believe they deserve the respect on their name that I think they have, to it's just filth. Like, I actually think we need to start charging for podcast licenses, and judging by the thumbnail, I think you know who's going to be on here. But I think I'm going to surprise you on some of the placements. We're going to be discussing these purely on watchability and how much I enjoy them. This is not an objective opinion. However, some of these opinions I will fight you on. This is my truth, and damn it, am I going to defend it. With all that out of the way, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. We are at 41,000 subscribers as of the making of this video, and I'm trying to get this video out on Sunday. We'll see how things work out, and we're trying to get to 50K subscribers by the end of the year. We are on track to do it because of you guys, and I keep on saying it, brother. It's crazy. I never thought we would get here in this time. We started in April, okay? That's not even like me gloating or anything. I didn't think, like, I'm just over here ranting in my upstairs middle room that has a slight echo. I'm sorry, this intro has actually become long-winded. Let's get into the podcaster tier list. The JRE. Okay, listen, man. The JRE, as of right now, I understand why people can dislike it. I understand people who dislike the JRE. Let me just rip the Band-Aid off right now. The JRE should not be the place for the premier life advice and the premier political advice. I'm trying to skirt away from it because I really don't want this video to get flagged for the big event that's going to be occurring within the next couple days. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. And certain people that have gone on said listen, the point I'm trying to make here, okay? I can tell how long you've been watching the JRE by what you think when I say the word Joe Rogan. If I say the word Joe Rogan to you, what do you think of Joe Rogan? And you're one of these two responses. I think that he is a guy that should not have the platform that he does, and that he has too much pull here, and he frankly is an ill-informed man that has too much pull in our modern society. Or he's a brother, man. He's over here holding the front for us proud American boys out there. Both of you guys have completely gotten lost in the sauce. You guys have been watching Joe Rogan for at tops for the past year. As a Joe Rogan connoisseur, as a Joe Rogan enjoyer, I have been watching the podcast since before we got to 1,000 episodes. I remember the before times, the before Austin times, before we got so enriched in this political culture war where both sides are trying to conscript every aspect of normal human beings into this war. The fact is you're both weirdos, man. I've said this in the cult tier list of things that I think are a cult that aren't quite called a cult. I think people that are way too into politics, I think you're a cult. I'm just gonna say it. I think you guys both suffer from it. And the most frustrating part about it is that the only thing that you guys agree on is you hate people like me who are, frankly, I'm more of a centrist than anything. Wow, the motion detector just went off. Hopefully that doesn't affect the lighting. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, the political culture war ruins just about every aspect of entertainment that it touches. I hate it. I think everybody hates it. The fact is y'all are trying to attempt to ruin the JRE. I'm just going to say it right now. The JRE should not be the political mecca that people are trying to make it in today. You want to know what the peak JRE episode is? You want to know, if I had to recommend the JRE to you, what episode I would give you? Joey Diaz or Bob Lazar. Those are the two episodes I would give you. The fact is I'm not watching the JRE episode to get informed, to get depressed on the current state of the world that I live in, bro. I like the ignorant bliss that I find myself in and the fact that I can just talk about random stuff I enjoy on a video, okay? The reason that certain podcasts do really well is and the reason that the Joe Rogan, the JRE, has done so well and became the biggest podcast in the world is because it's just a bro. Joe Rogan is just a bro. The way that you describe Joe Rogan and how I know that you've been watching the JRE and you get to understand the point of the JRE is it's a bro just trying to find out how the world works. Is he going to be right all the time? Absolutely not. I don't go into a JRE episode looking at Joe Rogan as an expert of all facets of the world. No. We like the JRE because Joe Rogan is a good point of view that most people find themselves in when they don't understand like the current findings of like an astrophysicist. They don't understand everything that's going on. But at the same time, I want to hear about DMT and aliens, okay? That's what I listen to it for. Do I listen to every episode now? No. Frankly, there's a lot of episodes I just skip. However, Joe Rogan effectively changed how podcasts are viewed in pop culture. I just gotta say that right now. Joe Rogan, whether he meant to or not, has literally changed the entirety of content creation for the entire time. Like, Joe Rogan killed the talk shows. He did. Joe Rogan's podcast is the only reason that any of the ones that I'm going to talk about exist. They would be something different. They would be a YouTube channel. They would not exist unless the JRE made podcasting popular. Is he the first podcast? No. He is the podcast that made podcasting popular. Impaulsive wouldn't exist. Theo Von's podcast wouldn't exist. Talk Tuah 100% wouldn't exist if it weren't for the JRE. Here's the thing. You can dislike the JRE. However, there's a lot of people that don't understand it. They don't understand the purpose of the Joe Rogan experience, and they're going to say that people should hate it. No, you missed the point, brother. It's just your average, everyday gym bro talking to extraordinary people. And in my mind, that is what a podcast should be if you're going to be a guest-oriented podcast. I'm going to put the JRE in S tier purely because it is what made podcasting what it is today. Also, I just want to say this. The JRE is the reason that Spotify has videos. The JRE is the reason why they have a podcast chart, and JRE is the reason why they have comments. All of that was directly in the contract of the JRE. He literally told Spotify he wouldn't go over there for $100 million unless they made it so people can watch the video of his podcast. And I honestly think that actually made the entirety of content creation and put them up another 5 years, because now there is an actual competitor of sorts when it comes to podcasting to YouTube. That is why I like the JRE, because it pushed podcasting forward 5 to 10 years. That's why I like it. You can dislike it, but you have to respect the effects of it. That's how I think. Creepcast. If I can get this out on Sunday, I'm going to be watching the Creepcast episode. Last weekend, they weren't able to get it out on Sunday, and instead they put it out on a Monday. And let me tell you something right now. That was a bad weekend. I'm going to turn up the brightness so you can see my wrinkles, okay? Damn. There we go. We're brown. Not brown. We're tan. There we go. Where was I? Oh, yeah, Creepcast. Listen, I love the Creepcast. I love horror. That is how I am. I think horror is probably, when done right, is the most extraordinary genre of entertainment. Why do I say that? Because horror, when it does well, invokes an emotion that you aren't going to get in other things. You watch an Avengers movie just to find, like, it's the junk food of movies. A scary movie done well is going to be, it has to be a phenomenal movie to be a good scary movie. And they cover all aspects of analog horror, something that I've covered, creepypastas. I've name-dropped them multiple times. The host is Wendigoon and Meat Canyon. I have nothing but good things to say about their channels. Meat Canyon is a teddy bear. Let me just say that right now, man. I'm going to be real with you, okay? I thought Meat Canyon was going to be a very disturbed artist, kind of a weird antisocial dude. And don't get me wrong, he's an antisocial dude. But he's a teddy bear whenever he's filming with his boys. And in all honesty, that's something that I can relate to, okay? I've met a few of you guys I've been able to train with, like, train martial arts with. You guys are really cool. I like my fan base. They're all awesome dudes. But I'm a very antisocial gentleman, so I can relate to Meat Canyon here. Isaiah Wendigoon is just a chill, Bible-loving Appalachian boy. Like, I'm sorry, you can't hate that dude either. I remember when people trying to cancel him. It was really strange to me. They literally just canceled. They tried to cancel. One dude tried to cancel. Let me preface that. One dude tried to cancel him because the stereotypical Appalachian dude, that's what he thought Wendigoon was, and it failed dramatically. I love the Creepcast, okay? I am also one of those people. People are going to be looking for this comment now. That's the funniest part about it. I will go into the comment section whenever a new Creepcast episode drops and say something along the lines of, who's up early creeping they cast, okay? I love the Creepcast, man. It's one of my all-time favorites. And here's the problem. Due to the metric that I have set up, I'm actually going to put the Creepcast in S tier. They are currently top 30 in the world. I believe they were 26 in the world above the Tuah podcast when I last checked. I put them in S tier. Whenever a new Creepcast episode is going on, like if you ever want a brief look inside what my daily life is, if it's Sunday, I'm either recording. Oh, a sneeze is coming on. Watermelon. It freaks me out how well that works. Oh yeah, if somebody's about to sneeze, say the word watermelon and they won't sneeze. I have no clue how that works, and it works on yourself as you have seen. Whenever a new Creepcast episode comes out on a Sunday, I am watching that the moment it happens. I don't get a lot of work done on Sundays because I love Creepcast. Love it. I don't care. They could cover the objectively the worst story ever, and I will love it. I will also, they got me introduced to Feed the Pig and the Black Farm, something that I will cover in a video eventually. I love the Creepcast, dude. I love it. I like the I cannot sing its praises enough. The Red Thread, okay? Listen. I'm a Wendigoon fanboy. Let me just say that. I love the Wendigoon channel. I like the vibe that it is. When I'm watching something informational, I don't need to feel like I'm getting talked at. I want to feel like I'm getting talked to. That is something that I try to do in this channel. I never like to talk to you like I'm lecturing you. I don't want to talk at you like I'm lecturing you. No, I want to talk to you like I'm talking to a friend. The conversations that we're having, that I have with this, I think I talk to the camera more than I talk to people in my day-to-day life. Damn, that's sad. But you guys have become my coping mechanism with loneliness, okay? That's just how it's worked out. So I talk to you like how I would talk to a friend. And that is what the Red Thread is. The Red Thread, again, we have Wendigoon, we have Oompaville, there was Moist Critical. I do miss Moist Critical. I like Oompaville. Oompaville's another one of those dudes that I think he has this bro essence to him. Where we could have a conversation of the war crimes of Saddam Hussein during the Gulf War. But we can also have a conversation talking about how, what are my chances of being able to take Bigfoot in a hand-to-hand scenario. I respect that type of energy. And you're going to notice really quick where my bias is the Red Thread, Creepcast, and the JRE. It's all just a bunch of bros having a conversation. Unironically, my least favorite Joe Rogan episodes are actually the most political ones, because then it's no longer a conversation between bros. It's more of a conversation between somebody of power lecturing a normal bro. I hate that. That's why I love the Red Thread. It's just a bunch of boys talking about really effed up things. And at the end of the day, that's something that I do in my channel, and it is a podcast that I can't recommend enough. However, it's not S tier. Why isn't it S tier? Because I feel like some of the topics are lacking. I'm just going to say it right now. Some of the topics are not quite to my liking. I need something a little bit more oomph, okay? A little bit more spice. There's spice in a Creepcast episode. The red thread, every once in a while, there's a dud of an episode. And I don't tune into every episode, okay? There's an episode out right now over Amelia Earhart, and I haven't watched it yet because I'm going to be real with you. I'm not that interested in Amelia Earhart. She got eaten by coconut crabs. Let me spoil it to you. Yeah, I remember watching Madagascar. The fighter pilot in the... Not the fighter pilot. The pilot in the SIP in the Madagascar trees in Madagascar 1. That was meant to be an Amelia Earhart reference. And no, she was not eaten alive by coconut crabs. She most likely died on impact and were scavenged by coconut crabs. However, that has to be one of the most brutal deaths I can ever hear about, getting eaten alive by coconut crabs. Look up a picture of those demons. The red thread, I'm going to put it in great. It's a great podcast. I don't listen to every episode, though. The Talk Tuah Podcast. Okay. I've been nice for too long. Now I am going to be mean. Why do I dislike the Talk Tuah podcast? I watched 3 episodes of it, okay? Let me just say something right now before I get mean. Haley Welts is the Hawk Tuah girl. And I sympathize with her. I feel bad for her. Why do I feel bad for her? Because she became famous in the worst way to become famous, okay? Let me spoil something to you because... Their odds are one of you is going to become a YouTuber. Dude, like I have 40,000 subscribers. One of you is going to be able to get 100,000 subscribers. I can say that now. You would much rather have a start where you start off from nothing and slowly build up and then get famous like a Moist Critical. Unironically, the best way to become famous is like Moist Critical. Because he grew into becoming famous. He was a normal dude, had a normal development, and then became famous. If somebody wants to become a YouTuber or an ultra famous dude, I would actually just tell... I'm saying it like I'm an expert opinion. This is merely just me saying it. I would rather you just have a normal job and then become famous because then you have an idea of like normal people. I can't stand content creators who didn't work a normal job before they became famous because they're so out of touch because you make so much money that you're effectively... Like, yeah, you grew up middle class, but you are so disconnected from normal people that you forgot what struggle was. Like, that's what I want somebody who understands struggle. Haley Welts got famous off a 5-second soundbite that basically went as follows. You gotta give him that Hawk Tuah spit on that thing. Like, that's what made her famous. And she got a podcast to make the fame last as long as it did. And it's so sad when you realize Haley Welts doesn't want to be known as the Talk Tuah girl. But I immediately lose my sympathy when you called it Talk Tuah. And yes, Talk Tuah is a subsidiary to the company Better. Jake Paul owns part of the Talk Tuah podcast. That little lightning bolt is the Better logo. I didn't realize that until I looked into it. And it's bad. It is... Okay, the Talk Tuah podcast makes the JRE look like a daily conversation between Plato and Socrates. The Talk Tuah podcast is awful. Like, I'm gonna be mean here. The reason that the JRE works is that Joe Rogan is charismatic conversationally. We can talk about a stand-up in another video. Haley Welts is one of the most uncharismatic people I think I've ever seen on a podcast. But it's because she talks like a normal person. But she talks like a normal person that hasn't had to have a conversation. I'm trying to make this make sense, but just watch one episode of the Talk Tuah podcast. I'm not saying that she should lose her podcaster license. That's a different person. I'll talk about them. The Talk Tuah podcast is a good example of what a bad podcast is. It's like top 70 in the world right now, so it is dying down. It's brain rot incarnate. I'll just say it for what it is. It's not good. It's all scripted. Okay, I'm going to say this. If you have to have a cue card for topics of conversation in a podcast, you probably shouldn't have a podcast. That's all I'm saying. You should have the ability to rant if you want a podcast. That's cheating. It's garbage. It's not filth. There is one that I would argue is worse than the Talk Tuah podcast, and we will talk about it. It's garbage. It's garbage, but I don't think it should be taken off. I will say that. I don't think it should be taken away. The Lex Fridman Podcast. My favorite moment of the Lex Fridman Podcast, okay? Okay, and let me give you a quick introduction to the Lex Fridman Podcast really quick. Lex Fridman is a genius. He is, okay? IQ-wise, education-wise, I believe he has a PhD in, like, robotics and engineering. Like, he's a legitimate smart dude, has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He speaks fluent Russian, has had a whole types of crazy interviews with, like, Mark Zuckerberg, all types of high-level people. And he has one problem. He is one of the most monotone people that I have ever seen on the internet. It is so bad how monotone he is in conversation that that's his charm. If Lex Fridman were to ever get animated, you would just assume he had a psychological break. And it was the funniest moment on all the Lex Fridman episodes was his Mr. Beast interview, okay? Because Mr. Beast comes on, and they're halfway through the interview. And Mr. Beast says, and I quote, "I have no idea why people watch this. Like, there's nothing here to keep attention. Like, I don't understand how your podcast is popular. Because it is so monotone. That, frankly, yeah. I have no clue how Lex Fridman is as big of a person as he is. I'm happy that he is. But I do have some criticisms here. It is boring. Like, you will fall asleep to a Lex Fridman podcast. However, it is higher IQ than the JRE. It is. However, if I'm comparing it on how much I'm going to watch it, I would actually put the Lex Fridman podcast in good. It's a good podcast. I'll say it's a good podcast. I think that's a fair way to put it. He's a little bit too monotone for a lot of people. That's where I would put it. He's a smart guy, though. I'll say that. The Full Send Podcast. This is the Nelk Boys podcast. I really don't. The Nelk Boys, okay, if I had to accumulate all of the IQ of everybody in the Nelk Boys, the Full Send Podcast, and smash them together, I think we might be above room temperature IQ. That sounds mean, but it's actually insane watching a Full Send Podcast and being like, how do you make Joe Rogan look like Aristotle? Like, legitimately, it is that bad. The guest, it's entertaining because it's a bunch of, like, frat bros, okay? Now, it's gonna sound like I'm going back on my criteria here. There's a difference between, like, normal bros having a conversation and then a bunch of, like, low IQ frat bros having a conversation. I'm not saying you're low IQ if you're in a frat, but there's a lot of really, really dumb conversations that are had in frat parties. That's all I'm saying, bro, okay? I get it. Full Send Podcast is that incarnate. Unironically, some of the most entertaining stuff is on there is when people just go after the Nelk Boys. Just start roasting the shit out of them. Like, that's the funniest part about it because they are to be roasted. They do a lot of MMA interviews, and I think those are some of the most unlistenable crap I've ever heard. Because I'm a big MMA fan. We'll talk about that in the sports tier list. But I'm convinced that the Full Send crew, the Nelk Boys, know nothing about MMA, and it grinds my gears because I've been watching it since I was a child. So it actually hurts my brain to listen to him talk. It's mid. It's better than Talk Tuah. It's actually crazy for me to say that. I could listen to a Full Send podcast. It actively hurt me to listen to Talk Tuah. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say. This Past Weekend by Theo Von. I love Theo Von, dude. Theo Von has a talent that I really want to emulate, okay? And that is, he can talk about really, really serious and dark subject matters and make it into a comedy routine. Theo Von, I don't even know if he, like, Theo Von's, like, psychology is interesting to me because you hear him talk about his childhood, and it sounds like the beginning of a serial killer documentary, but he describes it as, I just wanted to make my mom laugh. And his mom was in bad circumstances, so he learned how to be a comedian off making his mom laugh. And that's like, that's so sad. Oh my gosh, dude. That's so sad. But I'm happy that it made him into what he is today. An objective, like, don't get me wrong. Are we seeing the most high IQ conversations on here? No. But it's a good-natured frat bro. Okay. The reason that frat bro conversations are worse than normal bro conversations is because frat bros come into it with a superiority complex. Theo Von knows that he's not a high IQ individual, but he's aware that he's entertaining and he wants to talk to people. And I do want to emulate that. I like Theo Von. I can listen. I would put this past weekend as above the red thread, because what I am watching when I go into a Theo Von podcast is I'm watching Theo Von. The red thread relies on subject matters to get me in, but they have good personality, but it's not quite to the level of a Theo Von. That's my opinion. I don't listen to every episode, but Theo Von is like a good substitute for the JRE. Like, it is crazy how Theo Von is gumming as big as he is. I love the Theo Von podcast. That's all I really gotta say. Impaulsive, the Logan Paul podcast. Unironically, bro, George Janko was the only redeeming quality of the Impaulsive podcast, and when he got kicked off, understand, whether you're on Logan's side or George's side on it, George objectively just seems like a better human being to me, okay? He just does. I probably shouldn't use objectively, but George seems like a more redeemable human. The Impaulsive podcast is effectively this, okay? It's Logan Paul doing the Logan Paul stick with his lackey, Mike, who he just glazes him effectively the entire time. There is absolutely zero pushback on just about anything that comes from Logan Paul on that podcast. Like, it's unlistenable because there is no dynamic. Like, here's the thing. There's Joe Rogan and a person that is on there that doesn't have a lot of allegiance. The Creepcast. It's Meat Canyon and Wendigoon. There is, like, a dichotomy. There is a relationship. There is there is something that there's something going on. The Impaulsive podcast is effectively Logan Paul saying something, Mike coming in and being like, yeah, man, that's my best friend, greatest human being of all time. If Jesus Christ came back today, it would probably be Logan Paul's best friend, okay? Like, yeah, like that's what I think about Logan. Like, that's Mike the entire time. I don't respect that. I don't. I have more respect for Logan than I do Mike for that reason. And I respect George more than both of them for leaving it. Sometimes the guest is funny. Other than that, there's no reason to listen to the Impaulsive podcast. Is it filth? Not quite. It's garbage. It's in the same... It's slightly better than the Talk to a podcast, but it is garbage, I will say that. The Unsubscribed podcast. What happens when you take a bunch of military bros, a bunch of pew-pew tubers, put them together with a random guest at a round table and they just talk about interesting stuff? You get good old-fashioned bro podcasting. I love it, bro. Okay? Let me give you the hierarchy of bro conversations. There is the normal bro conversation. There is the military bro conversation. There is... and then there is the frat bro conversation. Military bros are better than frat... Actually, military bros can actually be better than normal bros because, like, they've seen some shit, so they come at it from a humble point of view most times. And they are just... Like... Okay, this is some insight into my life. I have trained with a lot of military people. I've trained with people that were Rangers. I've trained with a few Navy SEALs. I've trained with a lot of people that were in, like, the Marine Raiders. Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not over here, like... SEAL Team 6. No, that's not me. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. I've trained with a lot of them. They are all some of the funniest human beings I've ever met because they have to have humor to cope with the horrible shit that happens on a day-to-day basis. And the Unsubscribed podcast is a lot of that. They're funny people. They have a lot of history jokes. I've actually quoted them on the channel a couple times. If communism is a cake and you have a recipe for it and you put it in an oven and it fails every single time, a normal person would be like, the recipe is bad, but communists are like, no, your entire house is terrible and the oven's bad, so I'm going to burn down your house. That's a bit from the Unsubscribed podcast. I just quote it all the time because it's scary how true that is. I listen to them fairly regularly. I put them at the same level of the red thread. Okay? Actually, no. I'm sorry. I put them in the same level of a Lex Fridman. I like the dichotomy of it. I like the bro aspect of it. I'm putting it in good. I listen to the red thread a bit more than I do there. I listen to Unsubscribe the same amount of time I listen to the Lex Fridman podcast. That's how I'm going to say it. Jocko Podcast. I'm going to make a lot of people mad with this one because of where I put the unsubscribe podcast. The Jocko Podcast, I'm just going to say it right now. There's another, I'm going to cover two, and they're very similar, but one works better than the other. The Jocko Podcast, okay, is like, I like Jocko Willink. Jocko Willink's a cool dude. I would not recommend somebody the Jocko Podcast unless they had a guest on that could relate to a normal human being. The biggest weakness of Jocko Willink is that he's not a normal human. He is what I imagine testosterone incarnate sounds like. Jocko Willink looks like he has the testosterone count of a bison, a gorilla, and I don't even know. Name a super high testosterone animal, put that all together, make that into a human being. That's Jocko Willink is built like a silverback gorilla. He's a he would snap me in half with a look. Okay? He's funny. One of the funniest interviews he ever did was with Theo Von, because Theo Von said, I might be able to last a minute with you, Jocko. It's like, what makes you say that? Maybe if I like lube myself up, put some baby oil on me, maybe I'm gonna be a little bit slippery. And then Jocko, not realizing the joke, is like, I would break your neck. He'd be like, damn, man, I think I'm slipping out of there. Like, that's one of the funniest conversations that they've had. Jocko, it's tough to listen to if you're not a part of that world and he doesn't have a guest that you can relate to. It's a lot of military bro stuff. But it's like, not military funny bro, it's like discipline. It's like David Goggins. I like David Goggins. David Goggins does a little bit too much for my liking. I'm going to put Jocko at the top of mid, above the Full Send podcast though. Better than Full Send. The Shawn Ryan Show. Okay, I wish I did this one before I did Jocko. Imagine the Jocko podcast, but minus 20 milligrams of testosterone. That is the Shawn Ryan Show. And that sounds like an insult, but no, Shawn Ryan is just a normal human being, but he was also a Navy SEAL, and he has some fun conversations. I'm going to be real, though. I don't understand how he got as big as he did, because when I'm listening to it, sometimes it's a little bit too much, okay? I don't listen to it on a day-to-day basis. I'll pop in every once in an episode in a while. I'm going to put it bottom of good. The redeeming aspects of it is Shawn Ryan seems like a cool human being, but he just doesn't have the most bingeable podcast episodes. Like, bingeability is a big one. That's all I'm going to say. Financial Audit. This is the one you've probably seen from a TikTok clip, because this has just taken over my For You page on that app for a while. It's essentially this dude named Caleb Hammer who invites people onto his podcast who are just some of the most irresponsible, financially unresponsible people I've ever seen. And then Caleb Hammer eviscerates them like Gordon Ramsay, but when it comes to financial stuff. And then at the end of it, he kind of educates the normal person on how to spend their money more wisely. I really enjoy it. It's really funny. I'm trying to do it justice. Caleb seems like a chill dude. Like, maybe if I get big enough, I could do a podcast on like collabs that I would do. Okay, Caleb Hammer's one. I think he's an interesting dude. Theo Von, Wendigoon, Meat Canyon, all awesome dudes. Unsubscribe podcast, brother. That would be an amazing thing to get onto one day. Caleb Hammer, cool dude. I think he offers an objective service. Like, if you want to listen, if you want to feel better about yourself financially, watch his podcast. I like it. I really do. I'm going to put it near Lex Fridman level in terms of enjoyment. I think that's fair. Call her daddy. I'm not the target audience. I'm just going to admit it right now. I'm going to rank it and how I enjoy it, but don't look at my opinion on it as the objective, this is how it should be for everybody. I don't like it. I really don't. I'm not a fan. It's just not. But I get it. I'm just like the average white dude. Like, I'm not the target audience for it, but I would be lying to my audience if I said that I enjoyed it and I loved it. You understand what I'm saying here? Like, I want to be honest to you, but at the same time, I want to be honest to myself here. I don't enjoy it. It's just not my thing. Like, I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it. I'm not the target audience. It's mid. If I had to rank it, is it garbage? You ever watch something and you don't want to call it garbage, but you just know that it's not made for you and you just walk away? That's how I feel about the Call Her Daddy podcast. It's okay. Like, okay. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of people that like it, but I'm not one of them. It's mid in my opinion. Fresh and Fit. Yup. This is the one that goes below Talk Tuah. I hate this whole subgenre of podcast. Let me tell you something. Okay, I hate this whole subgenre of entertainment. Let me tell you something. If I take two people who are educated in something, and I say educated, and then put them up against objective room temperature IIQ individuals of the opposite party, and they get eviscerated for the entire podcast. Okay, if your ideology is so fragile that you don't want to debate people that are near the same level, not even debate, just have a conversation with them, then you're an ideology that shouldn't stick around. That is how I view it. This whole subgenre where it's just a bunch of, like, red pill dudes, a bunch of, like, Tate rejects, and they just bring on a bunch of OnlyFans models. And let me tell you something, how I view OnlyFans models. They are filling a demand. I get it, bro. Like, it's been a thing all throughout human history. It's a thing now in the electronic age. The only real problem that I have with it is I don't think that you should be able to broadcast it on Instagram because there are children on Instagram. I understand that sounds like a base take. I'll talk about that in another video to go further into it. But that's where I stand on OnlyFans. Keep it on OnlyFans. Don't bring it on the Instagram. I don't like that because there are children on Instagram. And we both know that child filter does absolutely nothing. We know. And we know, like, I'm sorry, bro. If you think that a 15-year-old kid isn't going to get out of child's Instagram, you don't know how children work. They will go onto there. They are going to watch that type of stuff. And that's the part of the OnlyFans stuff that I don't agree with. But to bring those people onto a podcast like they are the experts on the other side and they get eviscerated in a debate that you've invited them into only to push your BS and sell more courses, you are a scam artist taking advantage of low IQ individuals. It's my same problem with Jubilee. Yeah, let's take somebody who's educated on one side and put them up against objective morons on the other side. We could play this game all day. Brother, if you invited somebody that was actually, like, was going to debate something that was obviously wrong, but you put them against people that are not the smartest, the wrong idea will win because debating is a skill. Conversation, being a good conversationalist is a skill. Debating does nothing anymore. That's what I've learned. The Fresh and Fit podcast is filth. It is a subgenre of podcasting that I legitimately think should go extinct because there is no value for it aside from pushing a scam of an idea, which is legitimate courses that are BS, by the way. And it's dishonest in so many ways. It's filth. I want this subgenre of content creation to go extinct. That is how I view it. The wild side. Remember that nature dude that used to go on the JRE and he would talk about extinct creatures? Yeah, he got his own podcast and it is the most bro stuff I've ever heard. That is, like, I like it. Is it the best one out there? No. I like it though. Okay, it's one of those where I'm like, I don't listen to a lot of it, as you can tell. I don't have a lot to say with it. I'm a very new enjoyer to it. However, I'm gonna put it, it's good. I'm going to put it in good. It's very middle of the road. If you want to talk about nature, I love nature. If you want to talk about the history of, like, animal life throughout the entirety of Earth, it's very interesting. If you want to learn new stuff about animals that you didn't know about, like a tortoise who literally came back from extinction, we didn't know that was possible, listen to The Wild Side. I'm going to have links to all of these in the comment section down below. I didn't think about that until now. But, yeah, if any of these sound interesting, listen to them. That's all I gotta say. The Distractibles podcast. Markiplier's podcast. This is how people described it to me. I actually didn't know we had a podcast until you guys told me about it. So again, this is one that I'm new to. But I love Markiplier. Markiplier was like a surrogate older brother to me when I didn't have one. And I just wanted to listen to YouTube videos. And he was just a chill dude, man. That is Markiplier, okay? Markiplier is going to be known as that for the rest of his life. Same thing with, like, Jacksepticeye. The only dude that's, like, 50-50 is, like, PewDiePie, because a lot of people just call PewDiePie Felix. Like, they know his middle name. I mean, people call Markiplier Mark, so I guess that kind of goes both ways, but you get it. It's just good. Like, aliens, ghosts, random stuff that's going on the internet, lighthearted bro conversations, average bro conversation type stuff. It's good. I'm putting it in good. I would put it at the same level as the Unsubscribed podcast in terms of how much I enjoyed it. And there you go. That is the podcaster tier list that, honestly, that I just enjoy myself. If you think that any of my taste is bad, You tell me in the comment section down below. We have a lot of good videos planned for the next week. I'm sure you guys already know about it, but we try to get a video out every other day, and I hope you enjoy these videos. Please consider like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 50K subscribers by the end of the year. I was like about to cough for a second. 50K subscribers by the end of the year, and that's only possible with your guys' help, and I think we're going to be able to do it. Thank you for the support that you give this channel, and with all that out of the way, I will see you all next time. Thank you for watching, and adios, guys.